Welcome to my channel. My name is Sami, and let's rank my 2024 reads. Let's go. Happy BOOKMAS Day! Okay, today is a chill, lazy day. I am Alfred Peter. I'm obsessed with this set from Walmart. You should go get it. I highly recommend it. It's so stinking cute, Walmart, affordable, and this glows in the dark. It's sick. Okay, so today I am going to rank all my 2024 reads, and my veins are going to bug me the whole time. So, if you could just ignore them, that'd be great. Also, because I don't really understand the whole tier rank website, I don't understand how to make one, because I'm 80 years old. I'm going to link in the description box the tier rank board that I'm using. Just shout out to Sarah Curley on here on YouTube, fellow book girly. I'm using one of her little tier ranking boards. So thanks, Sarah. Shout out. Woo-hoo. Okay, shall we get started? I think I'm recording. Let's finger crossed. It has a little thing up on the corner. So we're gonna hope and pray that it's recording. If it's not, I will probably lose my mind. Okay, let's get started. So the sections that Sarah has on here is I haven't shut up about it for a reason, so that's the top one. Top contender of the year, mid, didn't love but recommend. I forgot I read this. Not my fave but was terrible. 2024 would have been better without. So I put my books down here in order of how I read them this year. And let's just start going through. I feel like last year I had a lot of fun with this. And I feel like it really helps you remember what you read in the year, but also your feelings, so you know going into next year what books did I like, which books did I vibe with, you know? Shall we get started? Let's go. Put me in the bubble. I'm a bubble. I'm in a bubble. Okay, it's my board, and let's just get started. Okay, number 1, Agatha Christie, Murder at the Vicarage. This is a Miss Marple book. This is the first book in Miss Marple series of hers, and I am a big Haiku Peril fan, so I was so excited this year to start and read my first Miss Marple. And I did really enjoy it. She was barely in this one. I have read more, we'll get to it, and I feel like she was in those a lot more, and we got to really understand her and get to know her a little more than the first one. It's hard because I'm like, mid sounds so mean. I really did like it. In a top contender of the year. I really did like it, and I was so happy to read my first Miss Marple book because I hadn't started that series yet. It was Hooked on Peril. Top contender of the year. Next is Tonight. Man, that's tiny. Today, Tonight, Tomorrow. Sorry. It's a very tiny little book on my eyeballs. This one was interesting because it's a romance. I think a YA romance. Or just romance, I'm not sure. But it takes place there in high school, and I'm pretty sure this is the one where they're like academic rivals. And it takes place in Seattle. It was really cool to learn more about Seattle. And also, too, I'm pretty sure this book, it was like a game of assassin for senior year, which I keep hearing that in books, and I'm like, I've never heard of this before. It was really cool because it takes place, the whole book is one day. Which at first I was kind of like, where is this gonna go if this spans over one day? So I was a little iffy on that, but overall it was pretty okay. I did like it. I think the second one did come out, and I don't know if I'm gonna check it out. I didn't really like fall in love with these characters. My camera's having issues, so sorry about that. Where were we? Hopefully I'm in the roughly same setup and you can see. Okay, I was talking about Today, Tonight, Tomorrow. And yeah, I just thought it was very interesting how it went a span over one day, and I learned a lot more about Seattle than I originally knew. So it was interesting, but it was okay. I think I would put it in didn't love but recommend. You know, like, if you just need an academic enemies romance, I definitely would recommend it, but like, I'm not and so in love with it that like I'm not even excited to really read the second book. So yeah, okay, next is The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. I read this for my library challenge, and it's so interesting how she writes about the real things that most likely really did happen, but with fictional characters that feel so real because they're probably based off of real people is so interesting. Obviously, very, very sad book. Have your tissues ready. I really did enjoy it. See, this is another bad thing about tier ranking is I can't make decisions. I think I would say end of the year. I really enjoy it. I still think about it, so I think that's a good spot. Next is Betting on You by Lynn Painter. Absolutely love Lynn Painter's YA romances. Obsessed. Better than the movies. It's one of my top favorites. Love it so much. This one was interesting. I'm trying to remember. I feel like they kind of just kept peering at each other's lives. Kind of like a sign that they should be together, but then they like fake dated for a bit and then fell in love, which is cute. It did not top Better than the movies, but it was still pretty good. I would probably say mid. I think that's good. Next is Ruthless Vows by Rebecca Ross. This is the second book in the Divine Rival series. And obviously Divine Rivals is number one, but this one was still pretty good. I did bawl my eyes out. So I always say, if a book makes me release real emotions or feel real emotions, you win. I would say, probably say top contender of the year. Next is A Fragile Enchantment. I remember seeing this on the list for new releases in 2024, and it sounds so interesting. This girl has this like power that she can put into her sewing. She sews, she makes dresses, all the stuff, but she really put like magic in the thread, which is so interesting. And I believe it's YA. I thought it was so cool. But also too, the like powers, like the more she uses her power, the more weak she gets. And I thought that was an interesting concept. And I had a really grand old time. See, I fear I am gonna put them all in the top contenders of the year, or like my favorite, because I mostly am a mood reader and I usually choose books that I find some interest in. So I feel mean putting that in mid because I really didn't like it. I might put it in mid for now. Might move it later, but I really did enjoy it. Highly recommend. Next is While Justice Sleeps by Stacey Abrams. This one was very interesting because it was my first legal thriller. I haven't dove into those yet. Obviously, most of the time I was very confused about all the legal talk. But I feel like she did a good job of explaining it in a way that common sense you would be able to understand. Very simple terminology most of the time. Most of the time. I would say mid. It was good. I think I realized from it that like legal thrillers probably not for me. But the mystery part, and it was very kind of like, I've never seen it, but in my brain it gave Scandal vibes. Yeah, very interesting. If you're into legal thrillers or you are looking to try one out, I would recommend it. Okay, next is Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murders. This one, I needed a mystery so bad. I think it was after that legal thriller. I was like, I need a simple, very basic, cutesy little mystery. And I saw a lot of people were recommending this one, and I was like, I'll try it out. It is such an interesting genre. It's like a comedy mystery, is how I would categorize it. So funny, but then people get murdered. So it's kind of like, that's not funny, but like, the mystery itself is hilarious, and I absolutely loved it. And I know there's another book coming out, which I'm very excited to read. I think top contender of the year. I really did enjoy it, and I really did enjoy it. Next, because I needed another mystery and I wanted one like that, this is Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone. That title right there got me, and I was like, yeah, I'm reading it. And this one turned out to be another comedy mystery. So funny. I love the narrator in this book. so much. So much. He is so funny. He makes these little, I don't know how to explain it. He's so hilarious. And I love is he kind of like talks directly to you. It really feels like he's directly talking to the reader. Some points, which is kind of creepy because he's not real. But I really had a grand old time and I had so much fun. And I'm obsessed with this author now. Like, he is added, was it again? I always forget. But Benjamin Stevenson is added to my top authors for sure. Like, any book he comes out with, I'm reading it, which I did already read the second of this series. And I did get it from the library. It's still coming in, but he has a Christmas book coming out. And I'm reading it. I got it. Okay, so I would say this is for sure I haven't shut up about it for a reason. 100%. Go read it. Literally go read it. Because it's so fun. Because you're also solving a mystery, but also it's like funny stuff happens. And just very like lightheartedly. And I loved it. Okay, next. This was also from my library challenge. It's Women of Walt Disney Engineering. Very interesting nonfiction book. I absolutely love Disney. I'm definitely a Disney adult. And I always want to learn about the behind the scenes, but especially the women who work for Disney. So cool. And I want their jobs. But yeah, I like, it wasn't like show stopping, but I'm happy I read this book. I recommend it if you have any interest into like Imagineering, design, drawing. Then I would recommend it for sure. I would say probably mid. I feel like I'm happy I read it, but am I ever going to go back to it? Probably not. Okay, next book is actually an arc I got. This is Unraveling by Peggy Ornstein. I hope I said that right. Very interesting book. Peggy documents her whole journey from knitting a sweater from scratch, like literally going to get the wool off of a sheep and winding it into yarn and dyeing it. And it was very interesting. It was happening during the pandemic times, and I actually found this very interesting because I am starting to my crochet journey, and it was very interesting. I'm happy I read it. It was a pretty short, sweet book. I would probably put it in mid because I did like it, and it made you really think about like, where is all this coming from, and the whole process of getting your yarn from the store. And I just thought that was cool. Next is Appointment of Death by Agatha Christie. This one was very interesting. That was kind of like not a locker room mystery because it wasn't, but I feel like that's just like, it kind of is, because the person gets murdered is in the room by themselves, and they have been by themselves. So they try to figure out, when did they actually die? Or were they sleeping? You know, kind of thing. It took place in like the desert, and it was very interesting because it had kind of like this family had a weird dynamic about like the mom kind of controlled them in a very like psychological controlling way. It was very complex for the time that Agatha Christie wrote this, because I feel like the time when she wrote this, it was not mental illness and manipulation stuff. I feel like wasn't really talked about at this time, so I thought that was really cool. And locked room-ish, mystery in the desert. Did the family do it or not? Mystery. I really enjoyed it. I would say a top contender of the year. I really, honestly, most Agatha Christie's are a slay to me. So next is another book I read for my library challenge, Once Upon an Eid, which the book wasn't available to check out, so I had to check out the audiobook, and I needed to read it for my mom. So it was actually really interesting because it's a bunch of different stories from different voices, and I feel like the audiobook actually really helped me understand and be able to distinguish the different stories and stuff, and really brought it more to life. And I really enjoyed it. I learned obviously so much more about Eid than I knew before, and I just love learning about other cultures and their celebrations, and I think it's so cool. So I would say one of my top contenders of the year, because I still think about it to this day. Next is Wishing Game. I love the Wishing Game so much. If you are a book lover, read this book. Like, this is for the book lovers. Like, it reminds you why you started reading in the first place and why you love reading so much. And a very heartfelt, beautiful story. Absolutely, I recommend. Like, riddles, too. Oh, I love it. I was going to say I haven't shut up about it because so cool. Highly recommend. Next is a classic, Tale of Peter Rabbit. I haven't read it. I probably read it as a kid, but I don't remember. It was very short. You need a short read before the end of the year. This one. So cute, the pictures. Peter, little rabbit getting in trouble. I would say it's mid. I'm not saying that Peter Rabbit is mid. It's good. It was good. Forget mid. It's just good. I'm going to change that to good. Okay? Because I enjoyed it. I'm happy I read it, but not like, because obviously it's a children's book, but I am happy I read it. Next is The Red Notebook. Now, this book I found out about from Jack Edwards here on YouTube, fellow booktuber. He talked about this book, and it sounded so interesting to me. It's pretty short, and it's translated to English, and it's a very short, little, small story about two unexpected people bump into their paths cross and fall in love. Like, it's such, like, legit. I feel like this is like the definition of a meet cute, kind of, and unexpected for both of them, and I actually really enjoyed it. I would say a top contender of the year. I really did enjoy it unexpectedly, and it's just a very sweet short book. I would highly recommend. Next book I read for Library Challenge is A Fell Love Story. Sweet YA romance. High school. I'm a sucker for the, I don't know what you call it, just high school YA romance trope. I don't know if that's a thing. But I'm a sucker for it. I would say it's mid. Like, I do remember what it was about. And I liked learning, again, about a different culture, too. So that was really cool. So, thumbs up. Next book is Good Girl, Bad Blood by Holly Jackson. This is the second book in the Good Girl's Guide to Murder series. Really enjoyed it. Didn't top the first one. I would say a top contender of the year. I really did. I'm loving this series. I'm very excited to read the third one next year. Next is The Body in the Library by Agatha Christie, the next Miss Marple book I read. Definitely enjoyed this one a lot more. Miss Marple is definitely in it much more in this one, and it's crazy that the concept's like this couple just comes down, they do like this, their normal routine, and they come down and the husband finds a dead woman's body in their library. Could you imagine just waking up, going downstairs, dead body in your house? Insane. So Miss Marple is a friend and she comes out and helps. I feel like this one had a lot more toss and turns than the first one. I would definitely say top contender of the year. I really did enjoy that. Still think about it. Next book is for another book from my library challenge, We Are Everywhere. This was for Pride Month. This book, it turns out, I got from the library. I thought it was going to just be a normal size book. No, it was a full coffee table book. And I did not realize that. But it was but it ended up being fine. But this is very interesting. I feel like I learned so much more about the journey and the battles that the LGBTQ plus community has gone through, and I am so admirable of them so much. And you know what? Love is love. So I really love this. Also, I just love history, so I would have to say top contender of the year. I love history, and it was just even cooler to learn more about Pride history. Next, this one was so cool. In Cold Blood by Truman Capote. I also found this one out from Jack Edwards. So interesting. It is a true crime novel, but real. Like this crime did happen in real life. It's basically a documentary, but in a book form. This guy, Truman, he, researched all of this and wrote a book about it. It's crazy how pointless most of these true crime cases are. Stupid motive, and I really enjoyed it. He went back and forth of the perspective of the family that are the victims and the perspective of the killers. Was so interesting of watching their paths separate and their perspective until their path intertwined into horrible tragedy. It's just, it's really intense. If you don't like true crime, I definitely want to recommend. But if you are a true crime junkie like me, I really enjoyed it, and I feel like this was one of the first true crime books I read about a real case that really hit me, and it was very interesting. Most of the time I prefer visual documentaries, but I really enjoyed this one. Highly recommend. I'm pretty sure it's even considered a classic, and so crazy. I would say this is definitely I would say I haven't shut up about it because it's a very unique book, at least to me. Very intense, real because it is real. That's while reading it, it's not like Days and Gems and Six. They aren't real. This did really happen, which is insane. It's insane. I recommend. Next is classic Mary Poppins. I know I probably read this as a kid. Again, don't remember. Some goes, I just want to broaden. I don't care if they don't let you read children's books. I don't care. I read what I want. And I absolutely enjoyed this. I would say I haven't shut about it because I liked it way more than I thought. And I'm like, dude, I would have killed these books as a kid. I probably read some and I just don't remember. But so fun and so magical, and just I feel like at the time this was written, it's so magical and fun. And obviously there are some pictures, but even the words, descriptive words were so fun and interesting, and I'm like, dude, a kid would have so much fun reading it. Your imagination goes insane. And highly recommend. Next is another book from my library challenge. This is Give Me a Sign. This is about hard of hearing people, and I don't know their names, don't ask me their names, but the girl is hard of hearing, but the boy is actually deaf. So she has some hearing still, but not fully. And it was a romance, but it was mainly about the hard of hearing community. It was very interesting, and the struggles that they go through that you don't even think about. People who get the hearing aid surgery is to some other deaf people in the community. I think that's you're turning on the deaf community by doing that because you want to be hearing. So it was just very interesting. The in and outs of that was really interesting. I would say it was mid. I did feel like I liked learning more about the hard hearing community. Was very interesting, more than the romance. I would say mid. Next is Kill It Instinct, the second book in the Natural series by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. I'm obsessed with the Natural series. I would say I haven't shared about because I just absolutely love this series. I'm taking it very slow because I do not want these characters to leave me. Next is Sad Cypress by Agatha Christie. Absolutely obsessed with this book. This book is so interesting. It takes most place in the courtroom, and that never happened yet in an Agatha Christie book. Very different setup than she normally does. And basically this girl is arrested for a crime, is being tried for it, and Paris brought in to prove her innocence. And you're going through the whole book, I loved it so much, just half the time I'd be like, okay, so she is innocent. And then I go, no wait, maybe she did do it. And I'm like, no, she's innocent. Then I was like, maybe she did do it. And then I couldn't, like, I think I read this literally in one day because I could not, I need to know if she did it or not. I absolutely love this. I absolutely love it. Definitely in the I haven't shut up about it for a reason. Highly recommend. Sci-fi person, so good. Okay, next is another book from my reading challenge, my library reading challenge, Rada and Jay's Recipe for Romance. This was so fun. It, like, just a YA romance. Again, learning about a whole new culture I didn't know much about. Dancing and food, and absolutely recommend. If you just need a boost of serotonin, read this book. I read it so quick. I loved it so much. I say I talk at the end of the year because I really did enjoy it. Next book is Pride and Premeditation. This was so interesting because it took Pride and Prejudice as classic and put a mystery in there. And it was so fun, so interesting. I really want to continue with this series, but the thing is, I know me and I'll have to go read the classic that it's based on before I read it. Because it was so much fun to know little things. It had the same basis layout of Pride and Prejudice, but it did sort of different ways. Because, like, I knew the characters already, so I was already going in knowing these characters. So I feel like that would be weird to go into one when I don't really know. Because I feel like that helped me in this. I don't know. I really liked it. I would say, I was a top contender of the year. I really enjoyed it. I don't know if I'll enjoy the other ones, but I did read a description of one of them that the Lizzie and Darcy do pop up in those, which I really did like this, and I wish they just continue this one. But I am intrigued. Very interesting. Next is A Do-Over by Lynn Painter. I was iffy, and I always put this one off because it's a Groundhog's Day. Repeats the same day. She repeats Valentine's Day over and over again. And I've really seen Groundhog's Day. I don't get that trope. I don't like it because I feel like, of course, it's very repetitive and kind of boring. But I really did enjoy this one. I feel like she did the Groundhog Day in a way that you wouldn't get bored. She didn't repeat every single day everything happened. She just said what changed. And I thought that was a good call. I would say it was mid, actually. I think mid. It was okay. It wasn't my favorite Lynn Painter. I did really like the characters, but I kept waiting for the anxiety part of when she thinks it's a Groundhog Day. She's gonna do all these things that she's gonna regret, but she's like, oh, it doesn't matter because tomorrow is just gonna restart. And it doesn't. It finally stops. Next is another Benjamin Stevenson. Everyone on this train is a suspect. This is the second book in the series. I'm obsessed. This is definitely... I haven't shut up about it for a reason, because just go read the series. It's so good. I don't even know if I said the narrator, he ends up writing a book and becoming an author, and like the book is technically what you're reading. And I think it's really cool and a very cool concept, and I love his writing and the layout and everything. It's so fun. Next is The Moving Finger by Agatha Christie. It's another Miss Marple. And I didn't love it. This one was one of the first, it was one of those, it's like, oh, this is dated, different times, and I most of the time can look past, but this one I couldn't, because it was a romance in there that I wasn't rooting for, and I thought was pretty gross. And yeah, kind of took me out of the mystery. The mystery was pretty cool, but the romance was so gross to me, I couldn't look past it. So I'm actually between not a fave but tolerable, or 24/4 would have been better without it. I'm gonna do not a fave but was terrible just because of the mystery was good. If the mystery sucked and this gross romance, it would have been in the bottom. That's one Agatha Christie I would not recommend. I actually recommend to skip. It wasn't bad writing. It just was insane. A lot of things going on and a gross relationship that grossed me out. Next is The Rose Code by Kate Quinn. This is a historical fiction. Kate Quinn just always hits. In my personal opinion, I think I like Kate Quinn more than Kristen Hanna, but that's just my personal preference. I definitely recommend if you really love Kristen Hanna and you want more authors like her, I recommend Kate Quinn. This one was so interesting. It was during the war in London. They were doing decoding, and there was a job that they allowed women to do, and LGBTQ plus people there too. And I thought that was really cool. But the thing is, it was 100% secret, top secret. They couldn't even tell their loved ones what they were doing there. It had to be that top secret, which was so cool and so interesting. Definitely a mystery part of a frame cover-up. Try to find out who done it. Definitely haven't shared about it for a reason. Absolutely obsessed. Absolutely loved it. Can't wait to read more Kate Quinn next year. Next is The Appeal. This one was very interesting because I feel like I heard of this book a lot over the years, and I kept meaning to check it out. I found, was like, you know what, we're gonna do it. So interesting. It mostly, this whole book is compiled of emails, documents, paperwork, rarely any other actual like chapters. It's really just email, text messages, documents, and you kind of go through all those to figure out who done it. And it was very interesting layout. I couldn't even imagine how long, like, she must have had to write a story first and then was like, okay, let me create these emails and documents to make it make sense or have this. It's crazy. I definitely recommend. I'm excited to read more of her. I believe her name is Janice Howlett. Definitely excited to read more of her books. I would say a top contender of the year. I really enjoyed it. Did feel like just a little let down by the plot twist. It wasn't as I thought. I have coming from the library is she has a Christmas appeal little novella, and I'm very excited to read that this month. Next is What the River Knows. This was also from my library challenge. This one was so interesting. It got me because it said, The Mummy Meets Death on the Nile. You mentioned Agatha Christie. You mentioned the masterpiece of The Mummy. I'm reading it, and it really was. It was really like the mystery part, but also history of like it takes place in like Egypt, so you get those kind of cool imagery, and then also hidden magic, so that has the fantasy bit in it, and also historical. It took place in like I think somewhere in the 1800s. I hope I'm not totally off, but it was so cool. Second book, I think it came out this month, but I don't think I'm going to get to that until next year. But I'm very excited because it left off on a huge cliffhanger. I would say between these two, because I'm like, I haven't shut up about it, but then it's a top contender. You know what? I'm going to put Haven't Shut Up About It for a reason. I really enjoyed it. I really liked it. It did give Mummy vibes, and I love the Mummy. Next, another classic, The Old Man and the Sea by Ernest Hemingway. I was very excited to read my first Ernest Hemingway. But I would probably say didn't love but would recommend. It just wasn't for me. It was a lot of fishing talk, and I don't know anything about fishing. And like a lot of classics, they're supposed to be having a message they're portraying through it, and I think the message was to like persevere, don't give up. But it was a whole lot with him trying to keep this fish to shore. He had to fight off sharks and stuff. And I thought, give up and try again tomorrow. But whatever. That's just me. Okay, next is another book from my library challenge, Arsenic and Adobo. Another one of those cooking mysteries. And again, love learning about a different culture. The only thing is the mystery. It was okay, but I did call it. It was who I said in the beginning. So that was kind of let down. And then I kind of felt bad for the main character. it's hard with a book is I feel you have to love the main character to like continue with the series. And I didn't fall in love with her. She was okay. She was okay. But I didn't fall in love with her, and I didn't really care for her, no offense. But then I felt really bad as a lot of her family and acquaintances were putting a lot on her back of you have to take care of the family, take care of the family. Screw your dreams. You have to stay here and take care of the, like, make sure everything's fine with the family and help out. Which I did that. I'm a very family oriented person, and I spend a lot of time with my family, and I love it. But that's my choice. But I also get to follow my passions too. So I don't know. Not my fave. I would say didn't love the recommend because I think if you especially love cooking, there's a lot of cooking in it and just a sweet little mystery. I think it was good. Just not my favorite book. Next is Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. I've been meaning to start the Truly Devious series because I know Rachel Catherine recommended it a lot, and I've been wanting to read it because I feel like it's right on my alley. It seems like it's gonna give Good Girl's Guide to Murder vibes, and it killed. It killed. I'm so excited to continue the series. Did live off on a big cliffhanger, but oh, it's right on my alley. I'm a sucker for YA mystery series. They're so good. Also, I feel like this one kind of gave me vibes of Legacies meets Girl's Guide to Murder. I feel like I got a lot of the boarding school vibes, gave me Legacy vibes, and I really enjoyed it. I would say a top contender of the year. I think I did enjoy it, but I think I'll get more into it later on in the series. But I did love is the little like past mystery that makes the main character want to go there to solve. It is so interesting. And next is The Little Prince. I'm not gonna try to pronounce the name because it's very French. But this was another classic I've been wanting to read, and it was okay. It was basically, again, message I got from it, like most classics, is to don't let go of your child imagination. Hold on to it as long as you can, because adults are boring. That's basically what I got. You just kind of follow this little prince guy on his little adventure across different planets, and it was interesting. I would say didn't love but recommend because it's a classic. Obviously, it was good and it's really short. It's nice, short and sweet. Cool pictures. Next is The Legend of Sleepy Hollow by Washington I. Irving. I read this in October and I was so excited because I kind of always had a fascination for the Headless Horseman and I always want to know its origin. And I was so excited to finally read The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Do have to say, I was pretty upset. Headless Horseman is barely in it, so I was pretty upset about that. Maybe there's another book exclusively on the Headless Horseman I need to read next year. But I really still enjoyed it. I'm happy I read it. I would say a top contender of the year. I really am happy I read it. It's a classic I've been wanting to read so badly. Okay, next is I'm always gonna say Alice in Wonderland, but Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Sorrows of the Lurking Glass. Very long title. It's a classic Disney. It was good. I'm happy I read it. I'm happy now I'm very excited to watch the movies now. The only thing is, didn't realize Alice is kind of annoying. She's a little entitled. She like goes into this magical world and acts like she owns the place. And yeah, that kind of sucked. But I loved the Cheshire Cat. I love all the illustrations and all the beautiful descriptive words he used. It was really cool. And it's a classic. So happy I read it. I would say top contender of the year because now I know more about Alice in Wonderland than I knew before. Now when I go to Disney, I would be like, I understand this, you know? Next, Billy Summers by Stephen King. This was one of my anticipated books for the year, and I was so intimidated because one, it's Stephen King, and two, it's a lot of it's a lot of pages. And if there's a lot of pages, it's hard for me to get through it. But I absolutely obsessed with this book. It's about a hitman who only kills bad guys, and he's so much more than that, and I am absolutely obsessed. This for sure is how much up about it for a reason. Go read it. I'm so excited to add more Stephen King books to my reading list next year. Next is There by Tommy Orange. This is another library challenge book. It's about so many different characters that all are Native American and all have their own struggles they're going through, but they all cross paths one night at a powwow and stuff goes down. And this book, the layout was so interesting to me. Each chapter is a different character, and then slowly you start connecting, or you start seeing how all these characters are connected to each other. And I bawled my eyes out at the end, and I learned so much more about culture I didn't know before, and especially too, it took place in Oakland, California, and I home state California. So that was really cool to learn about my home state. And I feel like I felt even connected more because it took place in California. There were so many things that felt like home, you know? So I would say I haven't shut up about it for a reason. I highly recommend. It hit even more, I felt like, because I did read it last month. I'm very excited too, as this came out in 2018. He just this year came out with a second book that I think is kind of connected to this. Very excited to check that out next year. Very excited. Also, he has a sick name, Tommy Orange. I want to be Samantha Orange. That's sick. Okay, next is Picture Perfect Play by Dorothea Lynn. Duh. Haven't shared about it for a reason. You can call me biased if you want, but this book was written by my mom, and she did such a good job. She ate. She left no crumbs. I'm 8 years old. I don't understand how to say the hip stuff or whatever. Amazing baseball romance if you're in a mood for a sports romance with that is not surface level, goes very deep, has really incredible heartwarming side characters and moments, and beautiful love story. Go read it, all of it. I'll link in the description box below. Highly recommend. And last but not least, I just finished this yesterday, is We Solve Murders by Richard Osman. This is his new series, separate from the Thursday Murder Club series. It's a new series. Haven't shut about it for a reason. I absolutely love it. Richard Osman never misses. I was a little scared to have a new series from him that's not Thursday Murder Club, because I love the Thursday Murder Club series. If you have not read that, go read it. It's so good. But I absolutely loved it. I couldn't put it down. I finished it in like 2 days. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. It means so much to me. Happy Bookmas Day 8, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.